Hi, welcome. My name is Michaela. I'm a wife, a mom, and a knitter from British Columbia, Canada, and this is Galanthus Knits. Hello, welcome back or welcome here. If this is your first time here, I'm Michaela and this is my third knitting podcast video. So I thought I would just talk today about some of the things I've been working on and some of the things that I've recently finished and just what's been going on knitting wise in my life recently. And with me, I have a little homemade flat white. Can't really tell what's in the mug, but this mug, I'm just going to do a little shout out. This mug was made for me by my friend Elena, who is a freelance illustrator and potter living in Paris. She is originally from the United States, but I met her when I was living in the UK, and she stayed with us for a while. And she moved to Paris and became, a wonderful artist and illustrator. Check her out. She's got some amazing stuff, but she sent this to me. It's custom made. She doesn't sell ones like this, but to remind me of the little bluebell wood in the forest near my house in England, which I no longer live in. So this is a very special mug for me, and I'm very, very careful with it when I use it. And my daughter, who is 8 months old, is not allowed anywhere near it. So she's off on a walk with my husband right now, so I can safely drink out of it. So let us begin. I will first begin by talking about my most recent finished object, which is the Baranduin sock by Fox and Folk. I have to hide away behind everything to get to get it to focus. So this is the Baranduin sock. I'll show you kind of the front view if I can get that right. So I did this as a test knit for Fox and Folk, and it's inspired by the Baranduin River in the Lord of the Rings, and so this is the river running, and then this is the Baranduin Bridge. And I really enjoyed doing this, so I have a pair. I finished it last week. The deadline for the test was yesterday. It was yesterday, but I had finished it early, so I sent all the information off that I needed to. Today is March 26th on the day that I'm filming this. It is a Tuesday. Yes, and it has been a bit crazy weather for us. It's just been pouring rain and then sunshine and then really, really gloomy, cloudy anyway, and then back to sunshine. So today's been a bit uncertain as far as the weather goes. So I wasn't sure if I was going to film this because it was quite dark this morning, but it's lightened up a bit. So I really enjoyed doing this. It is a fingering weight sock. So I used a regular sock yarn. It was a Sadness Garn Sisu in the color light moss, and it was knit on 2.25 millimeter needles. So quite small gauge. And then if you consider doing the, If you consider doing all the cables, it did take quite a long time to complete. But I really enjoyed the process. It is a heel flap and gusset kind of construction for the heel, which I like the way that those turn out, but I don't like working them up. I prefer to work a short row heel, but I didn't mind it too much in this sock. So I've worn them a couple of times and they've picked up some of my cat's fur. So I'm just kind of plucking fur off of the bottom of the sock. But yeah, I knitted this one quite on the go. It was one of those things that was just like, when you're a parent, like if anyone else has kids, you kind of know that your knitting time is very precious, or it's kind of in between things, when you can get a few moments or a few rows in. So it was very much a car knit. I had taken it with me on the drive to go skiing. I wasn't driving, I was a passenger, but I took it with me then and I worked on it in the car. I worked on it a little bit, during breaks in the day. Last week we had some really warm weather, and it just happened that my husband needed to run a special errand in Vancouver. So it takes a little while to drive to Vancouver from where we live. We don't live in the city. And so he took our daughter with him on that little day trip to give me kind of a day to rest and reset the house and reset my mind and everything. So I got a bunch of things done, and then I took myself down to the river and I just knitted on the second sock for 2 hours, I want to say. And then when I got a bit warm under the sun, I brought myself to a little cafe and I continued knitting for a bit. So it was really enjoyable to work up this sock, and I worked on it in all sorts of different weather and different places and outside and inside and in the car. And yeah, I don't know. I think I'll always have those kinds of memories associated with this now. And because I did it as my first test knit, it was my very first test knit, it has a sort of special place in my heart. So I would like to wear these only on sort of special occasions. They're not going to be an everyday sort of sock. I might even display them on like sock blockers in my room maybe. I'm not sure. Do something special with them because I don't want to, I don't want to take them for granted or ruin them. So that's my Baranduin sock. I don't know when the pattern is going to be released, but when it is, I highly recommend this pattern. And I think Fox and Folk has a lot of sock patterns, and they're all so beautiful. And I think, as far as I could tell, I was looking at her patterns the other day, and I think all of them or most of them are worked up in 2.25 millimeter needles on fingering weight yarn. So it's very like, you don't have to go out and buy all these different types of needles or different types of yarn. It's like stick to what you know as far as needles and yarn go, but then switch up the motifs, switch up the constructions a bit. And I really like that about her patterns. So that's that. Along the lines of socks, so I don't actually do a lot of sock knitting. I've done a few baby socks, and I've done a pair of socks for my mom in the past, and I've done a few for my husband and I when I first started knitting years ago, or when I first started getting serious about knitting, I should say, a few years ago. So I haven't done too much sock knitting, but this really kind of motivated me to do a bit more. So I have this yarn. I've had it in my stash for absolutely years, and it is Drops Fable. And Drops Fable kind of has like a self-patterning, they have a lot of skeins that have like a self-patterning, what do you call that? Color to them? I'm not sure. Pattern. And I didn't really know how this one was going to work up because it kind of looks like just a ball of chunk and mess and like, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't look very pretty or appetizing to me in the skein, but I wanted to know how it would work up. So I did a little swatch, and I kind of liked how it turned out. It has sort of, like a different kind of, there we go. Different kind of pattern up here with some variations, and then there's just some colors down here, and this has a slight variation on the bottom, but it blocked out quite nicely, and I liked the way that it was working. So I decided to just start a sort of vanilla sock. Not really following a pattern in particular. I'll probably just do a short row heel on this one rather than a heel flap and gusset, because it's just kind of to experiment on the yarn and how it turns out. But this is how it looks so far. I literally only have a little bit of the cuff. So I started with 64 stitches, and this is 2.25 millimeter needles. I'm not so sure how I feel about this color in the middle there. It's kind of like a purplish reddish brown, whereas the other ones are kind of more cool toned browns. And you can kind of see it in the skein here where it kind of runs there, but I didn't realize it was going to be such a big chunk in my sock. So I'm not super pleased with that, but it's just an experiment. It's just a kind of using up a skein and trying out this, doing like my own little vanilla sock, which I've never done before. So I'm not mad about it. Like, I do like the way that the swatch looks more than the sock currently. But who knows, as I knit it up, I might change my mind, more exciting things might come up, and I might find it fits better with the rest of the sock. So I'm not too concerned about it. It's not precious of a project. But yeah, so that's my little vanilla sock that I'm starting up. And I don't know how long that will take me, to be honest. It's not really a priority for me right now. It was just kind of like a little thing that I can throw. I keep it in like these tiny, just simple project bags, and I can throw it in my bag or in the diaper bag anytime that I think that maybe my daughter's going to fall asleep in the back of the car, and then I'll have to wait. And so, yeah, so just one of those projects where it's just, it'll be brought with me, but I'm not going to be stressed about it. Okay, my next WIP. This is the Cumulus. Ooh, there we go. The Cumulus Blouse by PetiteKnit. This is, knitted up as part of the knit along that Marlene from Marlene Knits and Julie Marquez is hosting. They're both hosting this knit along that I'm participating in. It's also my first knit along, so yeah, I've thrown a lot of new stuff as far as like knitting things go at myself in like February, March, because it was my first test knit. I started my podcast and I'm doing my first knit along as well. But I think I was just itching to just do something with all of my knitting and be more a part of a community thing. And so these are kind of the ways that I'm trying to be more a part of this knitting community. So anyways, yes, so this is the Cumulus Blouse. It is, doesn't look like much right now. So I have done all of the raglan increases, and I've broken off for the sleeves, as you can tell. I am working up one of the sleeves right now because I don't know how long I want to knit it, and I find it a lot easier to be able to tell what the sweater is going to look like if I finish the sleeves before I finish the bottom. So I tend to do that a lot with projects, with sweater projects. So that's what I've done. So I've done a little bit of the body, so you can see where I've broken off for the sleeves. So I've done quite a few centimeters of knitting since breaking off for the sleeves. But then I just decided to work up the left sleeve. So I'm doing that, and this is Drops Air in the color Wheat. I've knitted with this color before. I think it's beautiful. It's kind of beigey, but it's like a warm. Okay, the problem, I love beige. I like beige because it kind of fits with everything, and it's a warmer. I don't feel like I look very good in gray. I feel like I look good in beige as far as like a neutral but not white or black goes. But the problem I have with beige is that I don't want to look naked from afar. So I try to find beiges that don't really match my skin tone so that you can actually see that I'm wearing something because I don't know if this is just an irrational fear that I have, but I remember having these shorts when I was like 14, I want to say, and they were like skin color, and I liked them. They fit me well. And then I saw a picture of myself like on the beach from afar in them, and it looked like I just wasn't wearing any pants at all. And after that, I was like, I'm never wearing these again. And for some reason, that's stuck with me. So I'm very careful about beige. So yeah, this is kind of like a beigey, creamy color, but it's not hopefully that close to my skin. It probably doesn't matter that much to other people, but to me, it's just like one of those things that makes me feel insecure, as if I look naked. Yeah, so regular stockinette type project. It is a very light, airy gauge. I think mine turned out a little bit denser than what it's supposed to be, but I have the right gauge anyhow. It's not as, the tension is not as loose, I guess. But it's still very light, very airy. I'm using a couple of really special stitch markers for this project. One that I picked up in the autumn when I was up in Squamish. There's a lovely knitting shop in Squamish. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I will write it on the screen, because if you're in the area, please go to this shop. They said, and I believe them, I don't know if it's true or not, but they said that they're the only shop in all of Canada that only sells natural fibered yarns. And that's always what I'm looking for. I know I'm knitting with Drops Air, which has some synthetics in it, and sock yarn has nylon. I use those as well. But I always do try to look for natural fibers. I don't like working with synthetics. I definitely don't like working with 100% synthetic fibers. I just find them kind of gross to handle. And now that I've just, maybe that makes me sound like a bit of a snob, but if I'm going to put in the effort of knitting something myself and be running yarn through my hands for hours and hours, I want it to be a yarn that I enjoy working with, and I want it to be a good quality product at the end of what I've made. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just, I love natural yarns. I love trying different types of natural yarns. I am quite sensitive to itchiness, like as far as itchiness goes. So there are a lot of yarns that I like the look of, but I don't mind working with them in my hands, but I wouldn't wear on myself, especially in the chest and neck area. So I do have to be careful about buying yarn online, which I don't really do that much. Anyhow, that was an aside, but this shop was amazing. They had such beautiful natural yarns, and I picked up some Egyptian cotton yarn for not too much money to knit my friend some baby knits. So, and I did that. But I also picked myself up this tiny little stitch marker, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. But we'll see. Okay. Can you tell what that is? Can you see it? It is a morel mushroom. And I'm a bit of a forager. I did a lot of foraging when I lived in the UK. I have done less since moving back to British Columbia, just because now I have a child and not as much time on my hands to go out weekly and look for things to add to my meals. So anyhow, but morel mushrooms are one of those things that I have never found in real life. And it's just one of those bucket list items for me to be able to find and to try. I've never tried one before, and I can buy them dried at my local grocery store, but I don't want to do that. I want my first morel to be one that I actually forage myself. So this is a reminder of my goal. It's on my sleeve. I have to encounter it every single row. So yeah, so that's pretty special. And then I have another stitch marker on the body that is a special little notion that was added to an order that I placed with the Petite knitter, and I will talk more about her a bit later. But it is a tiny wooden polar bear, and it is incredible. I really like this one. Yeah, if you don't know the Petite knitter, she makes patterns for Lopapesa sweaters, Lopis. I don't know if Lopapesa is the right way to say that. It's an Icelandic word, but colorwork, yoked colorwork sweaters is what she specializes in. And she lives in Iqaluit, which is in Nunavut, up north in Canada, where I live. I live in Canada, but not in Iqaluit. And so she lives, polar bear territory. And I love her knits, and I love her designs, and yeah, this is such a beautiful little notion that I got from her, and it's very special. So I'm using two special stitch markers for my Cumulus blouse, which I hope the knit along runs until the end of April. So we're almost halfway through, and I feel like I'm halfway through the sweater. I don't really know where the halfway point is. I'm halfway through this sleeve and then have done most of the body. I feel like, I'm not sure how long I'm going to make it, so that, I guess it depends on that. But yes, that's my Cumulus blouse. Okay, so talking about the Petite knitter, the other two things that I want to show you in this video are from her. And I will start with the one that gives me a little bit of grief first, and then I'll go into something a bit more exciting. So give me a second. I need a sip of coffee. So this is embarrassing, but I need to talk about it. I started knitting my husband a sweater in October, and it is the end of March. But that's not the worst of it. I have promised him this sweater for 2 years. So in February of 2022, 2 years ago, my husband and I took a road trip to Iceland. And it was our second time going to Iceland, but we were there for longer than the previous time, and we saw more things, and we planned it out better. And it was an absolutely incredible trip. All of our favorite trips we've ever been on have been road trips, because it's just so much fun to plan things yourself. I find it really fun, and to discover it yourself and to kind of have your own freedom in that way. So we went on a road trip to Iceland. We did the Ring Road, we did the Troll Peninsula, and we didn't do the West Fjords because it was the conditions at that time of year were pretty unstable. So, but we've done a lot of the island. Anyhow, I bought Letlopi yarn while I was in Iceland, and I know that that yarn is not very like hard to get, at least not in any of the places that I've lived. But hold on, I'll grab some skeins. Okay, yes, so when we were in Iceland, I grabbed some Letlopi yarn because they have some beautiful Lopis for sale at the knitting shops in Reykjavik, but they're super expensive and I can knit one myself. So, but I can't buy like a sweater's quantity of yarn while I'm on a trip. So I just bought yarn, and because it is quite a rustic yarn, so I don't want that. Neither my husband or myself wanted that like really close to our bodies or, you know, up in the neck area. So I bought Letlopi for the color work of a promised Lopi sweater that I would eventually knit up for both myself and my husband. And I intended on doing it when I got home, but because our trip was in February, it was kind of spring by the time we got home, or it was going into spring, and I didn't feel like knitting on heavy Lopi sweaters. So anyway, these are some of the colors that I got for the color work section. And my idea for this, hold on, there's another one. My idea for this was really inspired by Icelandic landscape. So moss, lava, fire, ice, and yeah, like tundra grass kind of situation. So I also have a gray one up there that my husband wanted to incorporate into his jumper. So the idea was that I was going to use these for the color work section of a Lopi, and then I was going to use a kind of more affordable and easily accessible, softer merino for the body of the sweater and the sleeves and everything else, the main color. So I started it in October thinking I could finish it by Christmas. Didn't finish it by Christmas, just kind of put it away because I was discouraged about it. And now I'm trying to motivate myself to pick it back up. The problem with it, okay, I should probably say the pattern. What's the pattern? I think the pattern is the Tundra sweater or Tundra jumper, possibly. It's by the Petite knitter, and I have a lot of her patterns, and she has a lot of Lopi patterns, but I will put the name of the pattern up on the screen. The problem is the one that I chose, or the one that my husband chose, is a bottom-up sweater. And so you don't get to do the fun bit first. You get to do it last. And it's just so hard for me to work my way through a bottom-up construction of a sweater. And I just don't have much motivation for it. But I'll show you what I have so far. That was so long to just show you what I have. Here is the bottom of the sweater. So there is a bit of color work way on the bottom. So I started there, I'm going up. This is the body of the sweater, and then the sleeves are gonna, you know what I'm saying. Sleeves, and then the yoke is done last. So I've done that, and I've done one sleeve. The main color is, he wanted a bit of a variation, so it not just be like one color. So I used 2 strands of Drops Baby Merino, but one of them was in like a dark gray color and the other was in just gray or lighter, not light gray, but just gray, I think. Anyhow, whoops. So I held them together. I've held them double, I guess, and I worked one sleeve, and I have like the tiniest amount of cuff for the second sleeve that I've started. Like, when I say the tiniest amount, I really mean the tiniest amount. So, oh, you can't even see because it's so tiny. So yeah, so I've done that, and I'm really looking forward to doing the yoke eventually, but now it's going into spring again. So I don't know if I'm going to have the motivation to do it, but I really want him to wear it next winter. So I'm going to have to just like muster up all of my might and work on it and finish it, because I really love the way that the pattern looks and feels. And whoops, ran out of storage, so I had to switch things out. Yeah, so I really want to finish this by next winter. I love the way the pattern looks. I want to see him in it, and I want to finish it. It's not that the pattern itself is giving me any grief other than it just being bottom up and me not being motivated to complete a project in that construction. But yeah, we'll see if I can actually work on it a bit more. I need to. Now that it's in my hands, I'm like, I should just get on with this project. So it will turn out quite beautifully. I'll put a picture of what it's supposed to look like. The yoke part, because it's hard, you know, there's not much to go by from what I've made. But yeah, eventually that will be finished up and he can wear that for next winter. But I did start it in October. And I started it right before I went on like a little canoe trip. And then I took it with me on the canoe. And it was a really nice project to work on the water. But I don't know why I just have felt so unmotivated about it since then. I don't know. But anyways, the Petite Knitter also recently came out with her own pattern book, and I pre-ordered it. So this is the reason why I was able to get that little special polar bear notion, is because I pre-ordered it. So yes, PetiteKnits. It's an absolutely beautiful book. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so well done. It's even the cover of it has like a texture. Can you hear that? That's just it's just so beautiful. She signed it at the beginning. I have like a little note, a little message from her, which is really special. And she has a lot of Lopapesa patterns in here. The photography, I mean, her pictures are always so lovely. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you should, because they're absolutely gorgeous. But just some of the pictures in this book are so beautiful. It's such a lovely thing to flip through. Let's see. I'm just going to show you a few previews to get you interested, because I think you should support her. Yeah, okay. Some of these photos, and the landscape. I absolutely love cold places, love northern places. I love snow, I love ice, I love glaciers, I love mountains and tundra and all of that. And so I'm kind of, you know, living vicariously through some of how, the way that she lives. I know it's not a walk in the park to be living in a place like this, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. So there's lots of patterns in here. I won't show anything that gives the patterns away, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, most of them, they're all color work. So there's some mittens and jumpers and socks and all sorts of things going on. This one's really beautiful. I like this yellow color. If you can see that. Oh, gorgeous. So anyhow, this book is really beautiful. I pre-ordered it. I absolutely love it. And then it came with the little surprise stitch marker, the polar bear stitch marker. And it also came with a little, I don't know what you call it. It's not like a gauge, measure thing, but one of those things where you put I don't know what you'd call it. You put your color work strands in it so that you remember which color is which number. Like, this is your main color, this is your contrast color 1, contrast color 2, contrast color 3. So you can keep track of your yarns, basically. It's really cute. I will put a picture in of it, because it is on my cork board right now. So I will post a picture of it. And yeah. That is pretty much everything that I'm working on right now for knitting wise. This is, you know, an exciting thing that I got in the post recently, and a few finished objects, a few works in progress, a kind of slog of a work in progress. Again, not for any other reason besides just me. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on knitting wise. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot. This is so tiny, but I made a little bookmark for my friend. I haven't given it to her yet because it's for her birthday, and her birthday's in April. So it's a lace bookmark. I did it in sort of a dusty sage cotton scrap yarn that I had. And this is a pattern from a pattern book I have called Knits from Northern Lands, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the book. And the pattern, they have like a bunch of, I think it's mostly like Scottish inspired. I bought the book while I was still living in the UK, and I'm pretty sure they're Scottish patterns. A lot of like Shetland type things. But this is the Lace of Unst bookmark, I want to say. I'll post the name of it. But it's really beautiful. It's very easy to memorize the pattern and the lace details. So it's just, you just kind of repeat your motif as you go up. And I think I did one extra than what the pattern calls for because I wanted it to go a little bit longer. But I like the way it worked out. I blocked it, and I'm going to include it in her little birthday gift. Her birthday is at the beginning of April. So yeah, I hope she likes that because she's a reader and likes these kinds of pretty lacy type things, I think. So that's the last little thing that I did. And I worked this up in like an hour, I want to say, the other night. So it didn't take me very long at all, but this is the smallest project in that pattern book. I haven't actually done any of the other patterns from that book yet. I would like to eventually, but it's just hard to get to all the patterns that you want to get to, and things keep changing. You have goals for yourself, and then they change, and you decide, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather do this with this yarn and whatever. So yeah. Cool. Okay. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about in this episode. So if you've gotten this far, if you find what I'm talking about interesting, thank you for watching. I really love reading all the comments that everyone has left me. It's actually, I've felt a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of comments that I've received, especially on my first video. And all the people that are watching and all the subscribers. I mean, I've not gotten big by any means, but like I have definitely got a lot more views and a lot more subscribers than I expected by my third video. So, by my second video actually. So thank you so much. It's made me feel very encouraged, also very scared. I'm very nervous about how to, put myself out there. And, I am doing it. I'm putting myself out there, but it's encouraged me, but it's also made me a bit fearful. So thank you so much. I do enjoy reading all the comments and seeing where everyone's from. So if you haven't told me already where you're from, I'd love to know. I find these things really interesting. I love traveling. I love geography. I love knowing things about different places that I haven't been to. And so I would be really interested to know where you're watching from. And like I said at the beginning, I'm coming to you from British Columbia, Canada. So if you're from here too, I'd like to know. It would be nice to know that there's some other knitting friends sort of more local to me, if not local to me. So so let me know where you're from. And thank you so much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a lovely Easter, or have had a lovely Easter, because I'm sure this video will go up post Easter. So yeah, see you again.